newsroom, you're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell, and we are brought to you by Papa John's Pizza. Go online anytime and order your pizza at papajohns.com. Time for our inbox segment. Your email questions answered here on video. It's all Thunder all the time with this week's inbox. Let's get right to it with a question from Tony. Tony says, please tell me that Dion Waiters will not become a problem child if and when his minutes and touches go down. The dude seriously only knows how to do 3 things with a basketball when he has it: shoot, shoot, and shoot.
Okay, Tony, I'll do it. I'll comply. Dion Waiters is not going to be a problem when his minutes and his shots go down. I can't promise you, Tony. It very well could happen. We saw it in Cleveland. They grew tired of him with the Cavaliers. LeBron said, get rid of this guy. He likes to shoot too much. You know, right now everybody's dancing, everybody's happy, everything's great in Thunderland, but if Dion Waiters plays 15 minutes in a playoff game and gets 3 shots,
what's that going to look like?
Maybe he'll be a happy camper, maybe he won't be, so I can't promise you.
Well, and yeah, I can't either, Tony, sorry, but you know, I was sitting watching the game on Tuesday night, fabulous performance by the bench, especially in the 4th quarter, and you realize that the Thunder's got 10 guys essentially they're playing right now. And they're without 2 starters, Kevin Durant and Steven Adams. And you got to think those 2 guys are going to play some minutes when they come back. Scott Brooks has never come anywhere close to having a 12-man rotation. So there's no chance that all these guys that played so well the other night are still going to be playing as many minutes as they played and are playing right now. So it's not just Dion Waiters. There are several guys that are probably going to see minutes go down. How do they handle that? I don't know. I mean, it's a little bit uncharted territory. Now we do have a book on Dion Waiters because we've seen it happen before, but maybe they can, maybe, you know, maybe there's going to be a page turn. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting because Scott Brooks in the playoffs, 9-man rotation. I mean, 8 in some instances. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as those minutes get cut back. All right, back to the inbox. This one's from Rich. Rich says 2 3-letter words to describe the Thunder since the trade deadline: fun and wow. Better ball movement, spread the floor better, better pick and roll game, better post offense. Russell Westbrook is a better distributor than ever, and he trusts these guys, especially Enes Kanter. It's true, Barry.
It is true, but can we do one thing? Let's apply the brakes a little bit. Let's slow down a little bit. It is fun, it is a wow, but they've beaten Charlotte, they've beaten Denver, they've beaten Indiana. 3 sub-500 teams.
Do you go to kids' birthday parties and say, why are you guys running around having so much fun? Come on, Barry.
Here's the deal.
Wet rag, wet towel.
I love what's going on. It's great. But this is no sign that this is going to happen against Memphis. This is going to happen against Golden State. This is a promising team. I think they're going to do well in the playoffs. But there's going to be games where they're not going to score 111 points. They're going to score 84. They're going to score 87. Memphis is going to take Enes Kanter's head off in the playoffs. He's going to say, get me back to Salt Lake after some of those games. Can the Thunder hold those guys down to 80? When you score 87, can you hold the Grizzlies to 85?
Right.
That's what's going to determine this playoff for the Thunder. So excellent, excellent trend. But let's not get overly excited or ahead of ourselves.
Well, and I think that's very true. And I think the games to end this week are going to be interesting in that, you know, you go to play Phoenix and you go to play Portland, and especially that Portland game, a team that's been really good this year. You know, they play good basketball on both ends of the court. Can the Thunder sustain some of this, playing a team that's really played at a high level all year? It'll be interesting to see. But I still think some of the stuff we talked about at the trade deadline holds true. This team is looking more and more like a track meet team as opposed to a defensive disposition team, Barry. They keep talking about it. Scott Brooks said it the other day. But yet, until they get in a position where they really have to lock down, they haven't had to do it so much since the trade deadline. So can they do it? Remains a question. But it is fun. I mean, let's be honest.
It's great.
They're having fun. Fans are having fun. They're a lot more fun to watch now than they were earlier in the season. There's no doubt about that. So I totally agree with the fun, but let's see what happens as the opponents get tougher. All right, back to the inbox. This one from Greg. Greg says, when Steven Adams returns, start Enes Kanter, at least while KD is out of action. When Adams can return, I would play them with Kanter starting. 7-5, 7-5 minutes. But unless the Thunder is more than 16 points ahead with 3 minutes to play, Adams should not be in the game with his free throw liability. Oh my gosh, coach in the making here, Barry.
Well, it's a great point. It's a great point. What the arrival of Enes Kanter does is give the Thunder a center they can play down the stretch who is not a free throw liability.
Yep.
I love Steven Adams, but the one thing I don't like about his game is that foul shooting comes and goes. He's pretty much a 50%er.
Yeah.
He'll make 1 or 2, and there's a lot of times in the game where you need him to make 2 out of 2. So Kanter's the kind of guy that'll make 75% of his foul shots. So at the end of games, you can play Kanter. He won't be a liability on the foul line. Now, if you're up, if you're up 5, you got a defensive possession. In goes Adams. He can, he can plug the lane. But then when you get the ball back, the clock stops every 5 seconds in the last minute. Back comes Kanter for that foul shooting.
Yeah, and I think that talking about playoffs and later in the season, I think the Thunder really does have more flexibility with the lineups, and Scott Brooks' way hasn't been to change in the regular season depending on opponent. But I think in the playoffs we could see that. And he did it last year. He did it in some series. He did it in within series, changing the lineup to address a need. So I wouldn't be surprised to see, if the Thunder feels like it needs more of a defensive start, with Adams maybe being that guy that gets the start. But yeah, down the stretch, it seems like to me that Kanter is playing himself into being the guy that plays those meaningful minutes in the fourth quarter, because what he can do offensively, I think that's got to be something the Thunder likes down the stretch. All right, back to the inbox from Mike. Mike says, why would the Jazz trade their big guy for Kendrick Perkins, then buy out Perk's contract, and he goes to Cleveland, and now the Jazz have nothing? Did they just want to get rid of their big guy?
Well, I think here's what Utah was thinking. They were going to have to lose their big guy anyway. Enes Kanter was not coming back to Utah after this season. He's going to be
He was Reggie Jackson.
He's Reggie Jackson West.
Yep.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
He didn't want to be there. They'd grown to where they didn't want him to be there. We're all celebrating Enes Kanter. In Detroit, they're celebrating Reggie Jackson. Reggie had a monster game against the Cavaliers the other night. 22 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. Detroit's thinking, why would Oklahoma City ever trade this guy? Well, we're saying, why would Utah trade this guy? They thought they were going to lose him anyway. They got a draft pick out of the deal. That's, for a team like Utah, that's good. And it's not like Utah's derelict in the middle. The Thunder's got Russell Westbrook, some other guys on the perimeter. They don't really miss Reggie Jackson. Utah's got Rudy Gobert, excellent defensive center, and Derek, the big guy, Derek Favors on offense. So Utah's fine in the middle. So sometimes it's just a bad fit. And it wasn't a good fit for Reggie here, became that way. Same with Kanter in Utah. The Jazz got a draft pick and said, let's move on down the road.
Yeah, and the question of, Perkins, I think that it worked out great for Kendrick, which, I think a lot of people around here, especially after the way he played this season, had become more and more enamored with him, hated to see him go, while you might be thinking, could this come back to bite the Thunder if they have to play the Cavs? If they both make the NBA Finals by some miracle, and it's possible, but that's such a down-the-road scenario. The good news is Kendrick Perkins landed on a team where he can make a difference, where he's wanted, where he's needed. They're celebrating him in Cleveland, Barry. Talk about all these moves and who's celebrating who. They love him in Cleveland, so I think that's got to be at least a slight bright spot for people that were sad to see him go. He's now with a team where he can make a difference and really help them out. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.